Big LEZ'S League, an all rugby league experience.
Resilient is how I would sum up the Brisbane Broncos 2025 season. They went through highs, lows, and toilet water to get it done after 19 years and bring home the premiership. Put on 3 of the best finals games you're ever going to see. Coming from behind in all of those as underdogs, Reece Walsh having one of the greatest final runs of all time, and of course, getting it done for Dozer. So yeah, resilient is how I'd sum up the Broncos this season.
Hello, welcome back to Big LEZ'S League, an all rugby league experience. I'm your host, Big Les. It does look a little bit different to our normal setup. We are recording it just to the side. The studio that we're usually on is over there, but we are recording it over here. There is a bunch of shit all over the lounge. Could not be stuffed to move it. So we are recording right next to the window and the window cover. It doesn't look too bad, a little bit different to what you're usually used to seeing. But we're going to go through the Broncos season, and we're going to obviously review it in a bit of detail as much as we can, obviously, with them being the grand final winning side. If you want to see more of this sort of content, season reviews, previews, obviously coming up over the next couple of months. We've also got the reaction videos as well. We react to a bunch of rookie highlights for guys we think could debut over the next season or two. So get stuck into all that great content as well. But let's get straight into it. The Broncos 2025 season, absolutely phenomenal. They obviously went on to win the premiership in 2025 after a sensational run, not only by Reece Walsh, but by the Broncos. I mean, they beat the Raiders, they beat the Panthers, and they beat the Melbourne Storm, the 3 best teams of 2025 to get into that position. They fought their way into the top 4 after, I think, being 11th, 12th, even 13th. By the midpoint of the year, I think by around 14 or 15, they were sitting in 13th or something. So for them to get from there all the way into the top 4 by the end of the year, that magnificent run that they went on, it was outstanding. And I mean, they didn't lose a game after Reece Walsh drank some toilet water. So there's obviously something in that. That's for sure. But yeah, what a run by Reece Walsh. What a run by him. Post-Origin, I think that Reece Walsh just sort of lit up, had a really, really solid run there. Obviously, probably one of the better grand final performances that we've seen as well. He was absolutely phenomenal, Reece Walsh. And if there's no Reece Walsh in that side, they probably don't make finals. If there's no Reece Walsh in that side, they certainly don't win the comp. He was phenomenal, the grand final performance, the performances leading into that against Canberra as well, to be sent to the bin, come back, kick a 40-20, get them back in the game. Against the Panthers, what he was able to do against the Panthers, they were unable to shut him down at any point. And then that terrific grand final performance that you mentioned before, massive try-saving tackles, just doing everything great. Going on into the World Cup as well, and then playing some good footy for Australia for the most part. 2 out of 3 games, he was one of the star players in that team. So Reece Walsh, terrific end of season, and if he can continue this sort of form going into next year for a full year, that's going to be super exciting. And I think it's the next sort of thing that we're waiting for Reece Walsh to really take it to that next level for a full season. Get back into that Maroons side, into that Maroons fullback jersey, and then to obviously keep this going and hopefully keep that Australian Kangaroos number 1 jersey heading into the World Cup as well. That's what we're going to see from Reece Walsh next season. And if he can keep that sort of form going, who's to say the Broncos aren't going to be in the same position they are this season past going into next year? I think that they are certainly capable of being a top 4 side again in 2026. Madge, the legacy there for Madge Maguire. He's done this with South Sydney. He's done it with the Wiggins side over in the Super League. Now done it with the Broncos in NRL land, getting them to grand finals and obviously winning them. New Zealand, you can't forget New Zealand, what he did with New South Wales over that period as well. He's got a really good track record at the moment, Madge Maguire. You ignore the Tigers and everything that happened there. I honestly think he probably did the best in hindsight with what he could. He did the best that he could with that outfit, the Tigers outfit. Obviously, there was a lot going on there. They didn't really have the roster to compete with some of the top sides in the competition at that stage. That was quite obvious. So I think he did the best that he could with the Tigers. But with these powerhouses like the Broncos, like the Rabbitohs, New Zealand Blues, he knows how to get a top side ready to go and ready for finals, even ready for a grand final. So really good track record from Madge Maguire, creating a beautiful legacy. And I think even this year is super special because at the start of the year, everyone was saying, they're not buying into Madge Maguire and the way that he's coaching. They're obviously not buying into the method of training, star players revolting against Madge Maguire. There was that whole saga at the start of the year. It was all over the paper. And then to get to the back end of the year, and they've now won the premiership, and they've gone on this incredible run at the back end of the year. It's just crazy to see. Absolutely crazy to see. We saw hints of it in that game against the Sharks. That one stands out to me. I just played footy myself, and then we went to the pub after the game and watched that one, the Broncos and the Sharks. I think it was like round 21, round 20, I think it was. And just seeing what they were doing there. And Reece Walsh lighting it up. Shibasaki, who we'll talk about in a moment. These sort of guys really lighting it up for the Broncos. You could sort of see hints that they were going to potentially go on a bit of a run, and they ended up doing so. Payne Haas, big season for Payne Haas, staying strong. Obviously, one of the front rowers of the year, the Dally M's. Big Payne Haas seems to do it every single year. Player of the year again, I think, for the Broncos as well. So really, really consistent. I mean, he's done what he wanted to do in the NRL. He's gone and he's won a comp. It was the whole reason that he stayed with the Brisbane Broncos. He wanted to win a comp there. There's been so many contract chats about Payne Haas over the last couple of seasons, I think for the last at least 3 to 4 years. And the big reason, I guess, that was floating around is Payne Haas wants to win a comp. If he can't do that at Brisbane, he's going to go somewhere else. And he's now done that at the Brisbane Broncos. He's played Origin. He's played for Australia. He's played for the Samoa. There's a lot of chat about him going to Rugby 360. He's done everything in the game. If he does choose to go to rugby and have a little bit of a stint over there and then come back like an SBW, you obviously got to wish him all the best in doing that and obviously getting all of the money so he can set up his family for their future as well post-football. If that's what he wants to do, it's what he wants to do. But, as a selfish rugby league fan, we want to see a guy like Payne Haas in the game. That's for sure. So hopefully Payne Haas does stick around. And, if he does stick around with his Broncos side and what they're building, they're going to win more than one comp. They'll win at least 2 or 3 comps in the space of time where Ezra Mam, Reece Walsh, they have Jonah Pezzett now as well coming for 27, Payne Haas, Paddy Carrigan, Brendan Piakora, Jordan Ricky. The list goes on and on there with the players that they've got in that roster. Xavier Willison, Shibasaki, Dean Mariner, Josiah Karapani. I mean, they've got Tony Staggs. What a roster that they've got there. I've named pretty much the whole side, but they've got a terrific future. They've got a really terrific future, and very, very excited to see if the Broncos can win a few more comps. I think they can at least win another 2 or 3 in the space of obviously the next 10, 15 years that this side's going to be together. But I think the big thing is going to be keeping this side together because you got all these guys like Walsh, Mam, Payne Haas, Paddy Carrigan. They're going to be demanding big money. The big thing's going to be to keep them all at the club for as long as they can so that they can be together for the next couple of years, the next 10 years, hopefully. Shibasaki, humongous season from Gurmat Shibasaki. Really enjoyed the football that we saw from him this season. And, to be playing Japanese rugby, because you're not getting a spot in the NRL with the Newcastle Knights for a very long time, just unable to get into that team. Was with the Broncos before that and was in and out of first grade then. Goes to Japanese rugby for an opportunity, comes back on a train and trial with South Sydney, and then on a train and trial again this season with the Broncos. No one expected him to play first grade. There was all the rumours that he was going to be starting round 1. He did start round 1, and I guess we haven't really looked back since. He's played Origin. He's played for Australia since then as well. The story of Gurmat Shibasaki is so, so special, and very, very happy for him as well that he's able to do this and turn the career around, really, because if he continued down the same path, we wouldn't be talking about Shibasaki in the light that we are now. He probably wouldn't have even been playing first grade had he not gone to the Broncos on that train and trial contract. And, there were some dramas and hiccups along the way. Obviously, the off-field stuff that we heard about towards the back end of the season. I think he got dropped for a finals game or just before finals for some off-field stuff. Obviously came back to preseason at the start of the preseason and did a fitness test, and he was nowhere near where he needed to be as well. And they went through that whole story. I forget which article wrote about it, but was not fit at the start of the year at all, and Madge really made him buy in and get stuck in, and then by the end of the preseason, he was ahead of all these other guys in getting into this team. So massive year from Gurmat Shibasaki, and now he's stuck into this team. He's probably going to be playing for Queensland and Australia a little bit more as well if he can keep this sort of footy up. Xavier Willison, huge year for him. Again, some ups and downs with injury, more so for Xavier Willison, but he was terrific, and he's established himself now as a out-and-out first-grade front rower for me. He will be in this side for the next couple of years, that's for sure. Very, very talented. I think he'll start for Brisbane next year with Payne, Haas and Paddy Carrigan. I think they'll be your starting middles, and he'll kill it next year. I think hopefully injury-free. He will have a massive, massive season, Xavier Willison, and he'll establish himself as one of the better middles in the competition. That's for sure. Even guys like Brendan Piakura as well. I thought it was a great season from Brendan Piakura, especially the back end of the year when the Broncos did go on that run. He was terrific, absolutely terrific, very dangerous down that left-hand side, a little bit of ball playing, very exciting, very tough, very physical. If he can maintain the back end of year form going into next year, he'll be definitely one to keep an eye on too for next year, Brendan Piakura. And then, just keeping on the positives here before we touch on to maybe a few concerns heading into next year. Mariner and Karapani, both of these guys as well, in and out of first grade. Shibasaki basically pushed Mariner out of first grade, and Mariner had to work very, very hard to get back into this side. And, the back end of year from Mariner was unbelievable. He had a huge couple of games. Grand final performance was unbelievable. So too Karapani. And again, Karapani, he was struggling to get into first grade at South Sydney. Comes over to the Broncos, I believe, on a trainer trial as well, and he played in a grand final. Massive, massive story for Karapani. I feel like he's the forgotten man in all of this as well, especially with the Shibasaki story and everything else. But Mariner and Karapani, to work their way back into this side when they weren't in the side at the start of the year, and then to get into a grand final and win one, unbelievable story for both of those lads as well. I guess one concern for the Brisbane Broncos going into next year is probably going to be the hooker dilemma. I think that they need to figure out what their plan is, because they've got Blake Moser and they've got Cameron Bukowski sitting and waiting at the moment behind Hunt, Walters and Corey Pakes. I don't think you can keep all five of these guys. At least two or three of them need to leave. They've already lost Kobe Black. That's happened before literally just before we recorded this podcast. So, hopefully they don't lose Moser or Bukowski, because those two guys are very good. I think they'll lose one of them. I think that it'll probably be Bukowski, to be honest. I think they'll probably lose him to another club, just because Moser is the next up-and-coming guy, and he's been a lot more publicised. And, obviously it'll depend on pre-seasons and how these guys train and how they play in Q Cup. But you got these guys sitting and waiting for spots, and that's the big thing that is obviously going to be a little bit of a worry, especially sitting behind Ben Hunt. That's pretty much done what he wants to do in his career now. He's won a comp. He's won Origins. He's done everything he needs to do. Whether he takes a backwards seat, I highly doubt this is going to happen, but maybe he does take a backwards seat and ends the play. Maybe next year plays in Q Cup. I think it's an outrageous call, but you never know. As I said, he's done everything that he wants to do. In the NRL, he's won a comp, he's played Origin and won Origins. He's done literally everything that you can do in the game. So Ben Hunt, maybe if he does want to take a backwards seat and play some Q Cup, let the Broncos bring through the next man, which is going to be Blake Moser, and they probably should have done it this year. There was a lot of injuries, a lot of moving pieces for the Brisbane Broncos. Corey Pakes played quite well. Billy Walters was outstanding. It really does depend on what they want to do. I think that one of Hunter Walters probably needs to be sacrificed for next year, and I think it will be Ben Hunt. I really do. I think that if I'm going to make a big call early, I think that maybe by the end of the year you see Hunt, take a backward step, considering he has done everything that he wants to do in the game, and we bring through the next generation, which is a Blake Moser, and he gets a few more opportunities in this side. But that's obviously the big thing that I'm sort of going to be looking for next year, is how they manage this hooker crisis, because it is going to be an interesting one. I mean, Walters is 28, 29 years old as well. I think he's 30, actually. I think Billy Walters is 30 years old. So, not young either, back end of his career. or at the peak of his career, really, with the footy that he's playing. But yeah, look, it'll be interesting to see what the Broncos decide to do. But I think Moser has to come in next year. Otherwise, you're probably going to lose him just like you lost Kobe Black. There you go, guys. That is your Broncos 2025 season review. Make sure to go ahead and click the subscribe button to get stuck in to all of the other great content. We go deep into the season reviews for every single team separately on the YouTube and Spotify and Apple, so subscribe to all of those, and we deep review each team. A lot of other podcasts, when they're doing these season reviews, they try and have an outlook to the following season and almost do a mini preview. This is an out-and-out review, a little glimpse into next year, but we get stuck in to the season that was, the players that stood out. We really review each side. So if you want to see that sort of content, subscribe to the YouTube, and we'll see you guys in the next one.